Harpswell Select Board is holding a public hearing. You getting this? All right. The two ballot items, the Curtis Library and Clark Cove. Can you hear me all right? Okay. All right, I'm not. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody, we'll start off with Curtis Library. Wizard presents, going to do a little introduction.
Can I use the mic?
Sorry, remind me.
Hi there, I'm Liz Doucette. I'm the library director at Curtis Library. For those of you who I haven't met. I am here to answer any questions you have about the Harpswell funding request that we put in, which was for $164,400. That is, we've had 3 years of no increase to the grant funding that the Harpswell provides. So for the past 3 years, it's been $159,089. And I think mostly I'm here to answer any questions that folks might have. That would be none.
That is usually the case with Curtis Library.
We've gone through this at the Budget Advisory Committee meeting, pretty detailed, so
You did.
you know, I'm always available to answer questions too. Folks can always email or call or come by.
All right, anybody out there have any questions for Liz?
Come on.
Oh, another Liz.
Because I just looked at the sheet here. I was wondering what the agreement is for the contract with the library. So it's not an issue of my reading or not reading. It is a hefty amount, and I just noticed that it supports the staff as well. Well, I can't. Okay, is that better? Okay. I just wondered what the agreement has been over the course of several years, you know, because it keeps going up. If you could explain that.
It actually hasn't gone up for the past 3 years, so I just wanted to clarify that. It goes into operational support. So operational support, it pays for turning the electricity on, paying for the utilities, and helping to pay for staff salaries. Could everybody hear that? It goes into, I'm sorry. It goes to support staff. It pays for utility, it doesn't pay for it, but it contributes to paying for utilities and electricity, so keeping the lights on.
I think she's clarified it, because I know that if you have a membership to the library, it's $75 for a family, and I just couldn't understand the total and what it represented.
Liz, there's always been comments that this is the Brunswick Library and why are we messing around with it? Can you talk a little bit about that and what the library actually is and what it does for Harpswell?
It's a full-service library, so we have a whole list of services that we provide, including programming. We have 21 FTEs, which is about 44 staff people, 13 of which are full degreed librarians. So they're there to provide resources and support for people who are looking for information or ideas. We have programming regularly, which people can attend. And we have a collection of 144,000 books and other materials, so it's not just books. So we also have a whole digital collection, which can be accessed from home online. We have a movie collection, which can be accessed from home online. It's a whole list of services. So probably the biggest reason is that people want a full service library that's the way to get it.
But is it a Brunswick Municipal Library?
No.
What exactly is it?
The official name of it is the Curtis Memorial, well, we go by doing business as Curtis Memorial Library, and it's the Brunswick Public Library Association. Anything else?
Question on this?
I'm just curious for a little idea of the bigger picture here. What other towns immediately adjacent to Brunswick also contribute as we do, and what amounts are they contributing?
The only two municipalities that support Curtis Library are Brunswick and Harpswell. We don't go to other communities to ask for support, and we don't provide library cards to them. We only do it to the two communities that provide support. If you go to another library in the Mid-Coast area, some of them go to as many as 4 or 5 communities. It's based on what the historical relationships are. We've been the library for Harpswell since the early 1980s. It's a long relationship. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for being here. All right. Moving on now to the Clark Cove project. How do we want to start this? Kendra?
Hi, I'm Ken Mick with the Harpswell Town Lands Committee. I realize that probably most people here are familiar with the proposal for Clark Cove, but I'll just give a quick summary of sort of what's proposed and why we're recommending it. The property in question is about 18 acres off of Allen Point Road that goes down to Clark Cove. It has about 1,500 feet on the water, sort of combination rocky sandy beach. It's currently owned by the state of Maine, and it's open to the public now, and I think there's some minimal signage there, but beyond that, probably most people are not aware of that. What this management plan would do would allow for the town of Harpswell to enter an agreement with the state where for a period of time the property would be managed by Harpswell. The advantage of that is basically to create a modest trail from Allen Point Road down to the water, basically to give public access to the beach area would be the most compelling reason. It would also entail delineating the parking area either parallel along Allen Point Road or potentially a small parking lot. And the other part of that would be sort of signage, both delineating where the boundaries are so that visitors would stay within the state public area, and include rules of, there's certainly rules around dogs and no littering, pretty much standard rules that we see on other downtown trails. Like I said, I think this is a very modest proposal. It should be very small impact to the land. It's also consistent with the comprehensive plan, which specifically calls for the town to sort of steward open spaces. I guess I should add that there is a budget item for that. That would probably be, if any of that would be spent, it would be going for signage and parking. The trail work would actually be done by volunteers. So this is really just to open up, it's not a small water access point for public access. Like I say, it's technically available now, but because of the overgrowth, if you want to get down to the water and remain on the state public area, you're pretty much having to bushwhack through part of the wooded area. Thanks.
That's good.
I have some questions.
Oh, sure.
Is that okay?
You want to go for my place?
Thank you. Ann Wagner, I live on North Shore. I do have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. So the budget, I think, was $5,000. Is that right?
I think that's,
Yeah. Does that include the recommended environmental mowing that was recommended by the state?
That was the, I'm not my understanding is that that pipe loan.
I'm sorry.
All right, Chrissy might be able to answer this better, but my understanding is that the 5,000 would most likely be for like the parking, and the mowing would be probably part of the budget for regular property up maintenance. Is that correct, Chrissy?
Testing, there we go. Yeah, so the budget of 5,000 was essentially for improvements to the property. It might be, the parking area, the stairs, some trail building if we need any funding for that. I mean, we do think we will apply for a grant as well if we need additional funds for those kinds of improvements. But there was not a sense that the money would be used for an environmental impact study. Is that what I couldn't hear your question.
I'm sorry. I think I remember the state report saying that they recommended certain maintenance of the field to protect the birds and other environmental habitat that exists in that field. And I want to make sure that the town does protect that if this does go through. And then I don't believe I saw what the 5,000 includes or doesn't include. As you can imagine, we're abutting the field, our property is, and so we have some concerns about that in protecting the wildlife in that field. There are endangered habitats that are existing there, as the state did say that there was, that they had some recommendations of how to protect that. The only way to get a mower into the lower field is to build a bridge, and that's a significant cost that I don't know if anybody has considered that, because North Shore is a private road, and I can't imagine that there's any other way to that lower field. You would have to cross private property to get them that access.
Well, I would say it is our intention to follow the recommendations that the state has provided to us, and I appreciate those comments because we do intend to follow those. And, it mentions the bobolinks in this area, and we have those in Mitchell Field too, which is why we do leave these large swaths of area, and we only mow at certain times of year. Your comment about you can only get a mower down there with a new bridge, I really can't comment on that. I don't know what we would use at this point, but we would follow the recommendations of the state.
My recommendation is that the town look at all those. We had suggested that before, and then also as an abutting to the field, I think the board had promised the abutting neighbors a meeting, which has not happened. I was wondering when that was going to be.
Well, I think we did have a public informational meeting, and the intention was that, the abutters would be present. We didn't do specific, notices to the abutters, but I think many abutters were present and were aware of that meeting. I do believe we advertised it in the Anchor and tried to get the word out about that. So I thought that was the intention of that meeting, was to get input from people in the town and also those who are in the neighborhood.
That was not our understanding, that the board or some representative would sit down and understand our concerns about, because it is a huge impact to our livelihood, and especially where I am, we will see the foot traffic from this development. And then one more question, if you don't mind. You probably can't answer it, but who would be responsible for if there's an issue? Like, who do we call for that? Or what, is that a sheriff's responsibility, or it's not addressed in the agreement?
Well, it could depend on the issue. I mean, I don't want to get into how serious something might be that you would see, but obviously the person would have to make a judgment. But I think most issues could probably be handled by the town. Our recreation director is going to oversee the monitoring of that property. So I would say that that person is most likely to be the town's point person for issues related to the Clark Cove property if they arise. But if something is really serious, and I don't want to give an example, you might want to call the sheriff's department depending upon what you're seeing and what's occurring.
And does the sheriff have the ability to go on to state land and take any action?
Presumably, if somebody's doing something that is against the rules or illegal, I don't know what that might be, but obviously certain types of activities would not be allowed.
Hunting?
Pardon?
Hunting.
Hunting. Katie, could you speak to that issue? Would you mind?
Yes, I actually have seen people on state property with guns. So I'd like an answer to that, and I was hoping to get an answer when we talked about when we were going to have a meeting together, and that hasn't happened.
I can answer that. Yes, you can hunt that property, and you can hunt that property now. It's state-owned land, so it's public land. As long as you're within 300 feet of a dwelling, you can discharge a firearm on state land like that.
Okay. Okay, I didn't know the rules. I appreciate that. I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Catherine Gilly, County Suburb. Am I correct in my understanding is we're entering into a management plan, like there has been no plans to set a trail or to create a parking lot or anything of that sort, so this is just more or less the entering into an agreement to manage the land along with the state from the town?
I would say that we do have a sample plan for the trail. It's been modified from the original proposal based on feedback from the neighborhood. It's much shorter than it was previously. And so we have shared that information with the state, and we're working towards some type of cooperative agreement. We have a draft, but I would say that that's a draft for discussion purposes only, and the town is taking input on that as well. But we do have a plan. We do have a plan. We have information from the state about what we need to follow in terms of protecting wildlife and habitats and being, mindful of the conservation aspects of the property. So we do plan to take that all into consideration. But we do have a plan, and it's in our proposal, or we've compiled information over there about the proposal.
Excellent. That's kind of what I was getting to, as to the following the agreements from that plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ronnie Weston, Harpswell Neck. Ken, I appreciate that the Town Lands Committee recommended this, but for the last year plus, the Select Board has been discussing this, and to my knowledge, the Select Board voted 2-1 not to recommend this warrant. Is that correct?
My name is Edward Morvick. I live on North Shore Road. One of the questions I have is with the number of trails that we have in town here now and the access to water, how many of them are in the residential area? The only one I can think of is Giant Stairs, and the area around where Clark Cove is a completely built out area with no vacant lots around North Shore Road. And I'm just curious to create an area where we'll have additional traffic in a small, really one-lane road, essentially going down North Shore and also down Allen Point Road. I can see congestion. There's children that ride bicycles on that road. There's people that walk their dogs, like myself. Elderly people just walk on Allen Point Road, as well as on anyway, like I said, can somebody answer the question of how many other areas in the town here that have basically a trail in their backyard or in a residential area?
Cedar Beach comes to mind. There are several houses down there. Town worked out an agreement with one of the owners
several years ago.
Giant stairs also, right, which
Yes.
has been a problem, I guess, over the years.
Well, you know, Clark Cove and Giant Stairs will have nothing in common. It's not going to be one of those areas that's easy to get to. It's not, you know. Brian Barton came up with a great plan, I thought, with just 4 or 5 parking spaces and a rough trail down to the beach. You know, I don't think it's going to attract that many people.
As we mentioned earlier, I mean, it's been available for the last 50 years as state land, and it hasn't been limited to people going there.
No, I don't think anybody knew about it, frankly. Yeah, they do now.
Yeah, in the last couple of months is the first time putting signage up there. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Patty Lockring, Harpswell, Neck, Allen Point Road. Ken, you mentioned that this was in accordance with the comprehensive plan. I will say it's also in areas that it's diametrically opposed, and that the town's comprehensive plan does want to maintain rural character and preserve scenic views. And this would disrupt the rural character by increasing the traffic, as well as disturbing the scenic view in adding parking lot and signage. Thank you.
Hank Thorburn, Allen Point Road. I just have one question. I don't even know if it's appropriate, but who's been paying for the mowing for years on that field? Because I know Sheldon Morris used to do it. And that's a super important thing. Because if nobody had been doing that for the last 20 years, guess what? It would have been a giant field of nothing. So that's like super important. That's why it looks so nice. And I just hope that that's thought of, because the mowing is the whole thing in my mind, because it's got that beautiful set of trees down there, the whole thing. So anyway, thanks.
So Sheldon mowed it. He had a property adjacent to that, and he just mowed the whole thing. My uncle actually mowed a little piece of it too, and the previous residents at Jim's house mowed down probably 50 feet or so from the road. So everybody's kind of pitched in.
I guess my question is who's going to keep that up? I mean, who paid for that? I mean, I know you just kind of told me, but did somebody? I was always under the impression, as a neighbor that looked down there, that everyone paid Sheldon to cut everything, and it was awesome when he did because it looked fantastic. And well, who's going to pay for the next one? That's, I guess, really what I want to know, because Ann brought up about the tractor across the bridge there, you know, the brook, and you're almost shooting yourself in the foot if you don't let a tractor in without building a bridge, because that's why we all like it. You know, so I think it's really important.
The Morse Road Road Association basically paid Sheldon Morse, and basically we've hired outside since he passed away. It ran about between $2,000 and $3,000 every year after August 15th, when we basically had it mowed and maintained. So it's basically been how it was handled. And with this, we had an agreement with the state to do that. Sheldon Morse had an agreement, and that we abide by it.
Well, I assume that will kind of keep up. That's going to be an expense, like you said, nothing's free. Well, why would they do it unless? Well, I would hope somebody would do it. That's my point. Somebody would do it, and you guys shouldn't be responsible.
You're going to ask half a dozen homeowners.
Well, you've been doing it now.
Well, we can have that.
If you guys speak, you need to get up to the mic, please.
I agree with Hank entirely that that property needs to be maintained. It is a habitat for various endangered species now because of the grasslands and the way it's been maintained. We had a mention earlier of the comprehensive plan, which is interesting, because the comprehensive plan also specifically says that we should do everything we can to maintain our rural character. And it also talks specifically about preserving unique views. So putting a parking lot between the road and the view isn't really preserving the view. Bringing a lot of traffic into a one-lane road is not really preserving the rural character. So you're violating at the same time as you're using that as a justification. But beyond that, there are two things that I think really need to be talked about. One is cost. And I've got this new sprung on us just this afternoon. My, how did that happen? Thank you, Christy, for that advance heads up that you didn't give us. I appreciate that. You forgot, I guess, huh?
This is the latest draft that just is available today.
That's not the point, you know.
And so I didn't have it to share until today, but here it is.
Okay.
And it's an open draft. It's subject to discussion. The select board has not signed off.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
all the voters.
I was thanking you for giving us the normal advance heads up that you've been giving us.
I think we've been in this process now, and everyone is following the process, and everyone has the same information.
Okay. I'm not trying to make you defensive, all right? I'm just pointing out the fact that the communication, boom, dropped today. That's all. Now, this is the new agreement, which I'm assuming is intended to supersede the one that you previously had. All right? There's an old saying that says, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And I'm afraid that this agreement, if anything, it shows even more how much this is going to cost. All right, the town is willing to enter into an agreement to make certain basic improvements to facilitate public access and to take responsibility for the day-to-day maintenance and management of the premises. We still have no cost estimates for that whatsoever. Hank just brings up a $3,000 annual cost, which is going to be one of other annual costs and ongoing costs, but no one has addressed the cost of maintaining this property. All right, now we've got here improvements. The town will put in improvements consisting of gravel parking lot, pedestrian trail, along with linking the parking area to the shore, along with signage, and it's listed here as ancillary minor improvements. All right, well, if you're going to go down this piece of property on this proposed trail, the ancillary minor improvements include, number one, a very substantial footbridge. Now, whether that bridge is going to be wide enough to handle a mower or not, who knows? It certainly ought to be, but who knows? All right, there is no bridge there. In the past, representatives have said we're going to repair the bridge. The bridge is a single wobbly 2x6 that's been sitting in the water for 3 or 4 years. That's the bridge. So there's one of the ancillary costs. Next, once you get across the bridge, and this was in your own materials, you're going to have to construct a raised walkway over what was termed the bog area. All right, now this is not just scraping some grass on the gravel to make a trail. Then once you get down to the end of the property, you're going to have to construct a safe, secure outdoor stairway that goes down a 20-foot eroding cliff. The last stairway was washed out when we had the nor'easters. All right, so just if any of you spend money on your properties, think about doing a 10-foot long bridge, then about an elevated walkway that's going to run another 20 or 30 feet, and then a 30-foot long, heavy-duty exterior stairway. And you tell me how many thousands of dollars that's going to cost. And then when those things get washed out, if we have some other severe storms, if that bridge gets eroded because the water's rushing through the creek, as it continues to do, and suddenly your 10-foot bridge needs to be replaced with a 20-foot bridge because the banks are eroding. I mean, this is not speculation. This is how these things work. One quick question in the middle of this. When people from wherever they may be from, God bless them, come and park on my property or park in their property or park in someone else's driveway, who do we call? Who do we call? We're not going to call the head of the recreation department. I'll tell you that, but how do we deal with that?
Okay, no one has a right to park on private property without that property owner's permission, and you can call the sheriff's department to report that somebody is parked on your private property.
So why should we have to put up with those kind of problems on a daily basis? Okay, the other big thing here we've talked about is access, right? Access, that's the key issue here. The interesting thing is, look at the access that we have right now. Anybody can go on that property at any time of day or night and walk every square inch of it, whether they want to photograph, whether they want to paint, whether they want to journal, whether they want to have a picnic, whether they want to swim in the water, whatever they want to do, there is no restriction, none. It is full access to anyone who wants to step on the property and walk. And whether they want to go for 100 feet or all the way down to the shore and around the whole perimeter is up to them. That's how it is right now. And we don't have increased traffic in the neighborhood, and we don't have a bunch of signs, and we don't have a kiosk there, and we don't have a parking lot. But we do have full access for anyone who's aware of it. So maybe the thing to do would be to run an ad in the newspaper. The town wants you to be aware, da-da-da-da-da. That's a lot cheaper than building bridges and doing this and doing so on. So you've got maybe $50,000 or $100,000 in construction expense that no one has managed to cost out, which has certainly hurt other projects in the past. Wait, oh, it suddenly costs 50% more. Wait, oh, it's double the price. We've seen that time and time again. As to the access, once you engage in this agreement, the access stops. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you must stay on a path. Stay on the path. You're not allowed to run over here and walk over here. You have to stay on this path. You want to go look at that nice spot where you used to see some birds? You can't go over there anymore. You must stay on the path. So I think that we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. We have a wonderful, beautiful place that's cared for by the neighbors, that's loved by most of town who's familiar with the property. And going in there and throwing up a bunch of signs and cutting a parking lot and impacting the neighborhood, because whatever happens, none of you are going to have your daily lives impacted. But all of us are going to have our daily lives impacted. So think about that. You're damaging the quality of life for a segment of this population to provide less than our town people already have available to them. You're trying to reduce access. You're trying to regulate access. You're trying to put it in certain time frames, in certain physical locations. So if you want to walk down there, just make doggone sure you're on the path. So I could go on, but I'm not going to. I'll say this all.
I got a quick question for you, Jim. What's, I guess, just buying your argument here, if building a parking lot for people to park at and stuff is going to ruin the scenic view and the rural character, how would people parking along the side of the road not ruin the rural character and the scenic view?
They both do. They both do.
Well, you're saying one's okay and one's not.
Whether you're asking a question, whether the parking is on the road or off the road, it still ruins the view and the character. You stood next to me at that property and you said, oh, I'm all against signs. Signs ruin everything. I went to the Grand Canyon and I didn't like it because there were signs and kiosks and directions and trash cans everywhere. And now you're pushing for that stuff. Oh, yes. What do you think? Did you read this agreement? You will do everything that the state tells you to do. This agreement's very clear. It's very clear. You will do everything. They will grant you approval for the installation of the signage in the locations they've determined. And the signage will be in coordination with all of their other signs. So yes, don't say, no, we're not going to put signs up. It's right here. It's mentioned at least 3 times in this agreement. Please, you're being handled, guys. You're being handled. We've got a beautiful thing. Anyone can use it. Anyone can enjoy it. It's great. It's not stressing anybody out. It's not causing danger for children and families walking down the road in the summer. And you can still utilize it. You can still meet people there. You can still take a hike there. You can still do whatever you want to do there. Please, we don't need to develop everything. Some things are better left as they are. I just hope folks will consider that. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jim Knight. I come from West Harpswell, and I live in West Harpswell. I'm here to talk about Laddie Whitten, and about Laddie dealing with an 18-acre parcel known as the property. Most people know that Laddie was a long-term fixture on the Board of Selectmen here in Harpswell, and I think perhaps maybe 25 years. Laddie and I talked frequently after I was elected, I think more than 25 years ago. And he was a great help for me. And he told me about his dealings with this parcel. And we talked about it several times. And it's interesting because it's somehow very similar to the same battle that we seem to be waging tonight. But Laddie had some interesting perspectives. As soon as he found out that the state had acquired that property, he got in his car and went to Augusta, and I'm not certain the name of the person. I think that's long forgotten by me at least. And I believe that he met with whoever the director of public lands was on behalf of the state, and they debated the issue a lot over months. And again, Laddie told me about this several times. But he was pleased in the end. They agreed to an impasse, that they would do nothing. And today, everybody's concerned about trash and access and parking in my driveway versus your driveway. Those are all valid concerns, but what's it going to look like with the beer cans and the cigarette butts added to all of that? But I can't remember everything I wanted to say.
Welcome to the club.
But I think that nobody, in spite of what I've heard talk about with these birds, I don't think anybody asked the birds if it was okay to do this. It's an important nesting site, I'm told. Access to the site already exists, as somebody else pointed out, and the town already has 15 or so hiking paths perhaps more, I don't know. But I think that what happens often in Harpswell, at least in my lifetime, is somebody leaves someplace else that they're dissatisfied with when they live there, and they discover Maine, and then they discover Harpswell, and then they discover the Arnold Bible property, and then it's the same old recipe. This is beautiful. This is wonderful. I want to live here for the rest of my life. Let's make it better. Let's change it. We've seen it all too many times. Why don't you leave it alone? Why don't you do nothing? What's wrong with green space? I don't care who you are. Everybody wins with green space. Thank you.
Kurt Fisher, live Harpswell Neck. I'm one of those people that I've been here 4 years. I've lived in 4 different New England states, probably over the last 35 years or so. And I would just say 2 things. Actually, I should have said it. The library is the best library, actually. The library system is fantastic. Relative to the places I live, mostly rural, this town does the best job of actually managing open space, giving access to the people, and striking the balance between different environmental concerns, different business concerns, and I think there's a little bit of contradiction in some of the things that the abutters are saying with regard to, that it's rural now, but you need to construct safe stuff and stay on the trail. Staying on the trail actually preserves from the environment that the birds need to be, for them to propagate and do their thing. Similarly, in my mind, I was actually surprised to hear that it's mowed and the environmental concerns. To me, it seems like not mowing it, maintaining a trail would actually be more of a natural thing and a better environment for whatever natural thing needs to happen there. So I just wanted to give that perspective as well. Thank you.
Anything else? What's that? We're highway now.
Okay, Dave Chipman, one of the selectmen, and this property was my great-grandfather's farm. He is the reason it's called Allen Point. He was Emor Allen. His grandson, Arnold Bibber, lived there last, and then the state bought it when he couldn't, the rest of the family couldn't buy him out when Aunt Alice died. The thing is that, and I think Jim has spoken quite well to it, both Jims, actually, that this property is accessible now. People do use it, people have used it, and I think what the objection is that it's advertised and turned into a place that's no longer rustic and natural. And use dogs on leashes, it doesn't work. We've found all over town, Mitchell Field and all of our trails, there are rules for dogs on leash, and they're violated constantly. So the place will have dogs and trash, and it won't be the same. People can pull off the road now, access it, and if you don't mow it at least once a year, it'll turn back to forest. It won't have that same open field that it has now with the killdeer. I know a lot of the killdeer I think they still do breed there, and bobolinks. And the shoreline is used for migrating birds. They come and they're unmolested around a lot of people that use it, so there are few places in Harpswell, very few places where wildlife can be unmolested. So people use it now, they can use it, and I think the objection is to building it out and advertising it. Unfortunately, a lot of people know of it right now because of all of this, but it isn't a beach, it's a rocky shore, and everybody says we should have more water access, and what for? You can't launch a boat there, it's not a good place to swim. Hank has mentioned about kayaking, but I wouldn't drag a kayak 3/4 of a mile down there to launch it. There are a lot better places. So my feeling is that it should be left exactly as it is, and if we are going to have some sort of an agreement with the state, it would be to keep an eye on it and leave it as it is.
My name's Heidi Thorburn, and I live on Thorburn Lane, right off the Allen Point Road. I've been here for like maybe 20 years, so things have changed. The Allen Point Road is much busier. When I first moved here, there were like 2 houses on the Moore Shore Road. Plenty of bobbleheads. The houses came in, things changed. The field went away, houses came. Now there's light pollution in those houses. People don't seem to mind that people go down the Moore Shore Road to get to their homes. I find that it's like a double-edged sword, because people want it and people don't want it. I like the fields, and I like the beach, and I like nature. I like the neighborhood. It is a busier place. There's a lot more traffic, and you can't stop it. As far as people willy-nilly walking all over a property, they don't have access to it. They do, but then what happens when they wander into your yard? You know, they don't know where they're going if there's no set trail. You can't go down the Moore Shore Road because it's a private road unless you have permission to cross over on Barb's property. So I don't really think it's going to be like Old Orchard Beach. I really don't think it's going to be like Cape Cod. I mean, it's going to be a small walking path. You know, people will come, enjoy what we have. I don't know. I mean, things have changed tremendously that I see. I don't know what else to say about it. If it goes through, great. If it doesn't go through, great. A small, modest parking lot, minimal signage. Most people walk the trail, and I don't believe that they just huck their cigarettes here and there. You know, take in, take out. Appalachian Trail. You pack in what you pack out. You pack out what you pack in. You know, I don't know. So that's my piece. Thank you.
Immaculate. I'm the only select board member that voted for this, so I felt as though I should get up and at least justify my reasoning. What changed my mind, I can sympathize with the abutters. I lived next to Widgeon Cove for many years. I had people park in my driveway, turn around in my driveway, take things from my house. So I can sympathize. It sucked. I mean, it wasn't fun at that time. But that being said, if we don't enter into a management agreement with this remains state property. The state has over $6 million in their development fund to develop the lands remain futures, which this is. That is 3 times more money than they've ever had. That if the state decides to develop this, they can do whatever they want. They can put these signs, they can put kiosks, they can build all kinds of trails, they can advertise in the papers, and we have no say whatsoever at that point. At least if we enter into a management agreement, we can dictate how this goes. I mean, as Christy said earlier, the management draft that we have is a draft. There's been multiple town lands committee meetings where this has been discussed. None of the abutters have ever showed up in my time. That could have happened before my time. I wasn't there. I'm just saying in the time that I've been the liaison to the town lands committee. All right, I'll continue. And we have made changes based on some of their input and stuff like that, and this is not a finalized document. Changes can still be made after the fact. But if we don't enter into a management agreement, the state can do what they want, and you have no say whatsoever at that point. We don't as a town, and you don't as a municipality. I think this is the best way for us to maintain somewhat control over the property. And that's why I chose to support this measure.
I'm Mary Ann Naif, and I want to speak a little bit to some reasons we should move into a management plan. I'm a little perplexed because I know currently it is open to the public. It can be used by the public. And what we're talking about is maybe putting in a couple parking spaces so someone who doesn't live in the neighborhood could utilize it. We always think about what could happen, and this is true all over town. I just find it disturbing that there are people in town who do not have access to the water. Not everybody does. And we are a waterfront community with a fishing community, and there are people who live in town who cannot access the water. Yes, they can go to other places. However, I just don't see that we're going to see that much of a change. Maybe in, a long period of time. We've said we're not going to advertise it. We are going to have a management plan. And I just don't understand why there is so much pushback. Thank you.
I just want to address a couple items that you brought up, Matt. Number one, the state that agreement is a 90-day agreement. It's not a 10-year agreement, it's a 90-day agreement. Either party can terminate the agreement with 90 days notice. So doing an agreement that allows either party to get out in 90 days is not a long-term agreement. So whatever protection you think you're going to get with that can easily be changed. So that's number one. Number two, with regards to town lands. I've been there several times at those meetings. They're frustrating to attend. I had tried numerous times and have asked repeatedly that minutes from those meetings be posted. They're never posted as required within 5 days of being approved. If you go onto the site, onto the town site, no minutes, the minutes from multiple meetings are not there. I haven't looked at it lately, but I've mentioned this at select board meetings. I've mentioned this to Christy, and the response that I get are these are all volunteers. You volunteer to represent on these committees, and you have a responsibility. If you cannot live up to those responsibilities, you should not be on the committees. I get it's all volunteer, but you sign up and you should be doing that. And you do not repeatedly do those minutes. Can't always attend those meetings, we're busy people, but the lack of transparency is appalling. Thank you.
I'm Hope Hilton. I live on Basin Point Road, and I'm a member of the Town Lands Committee. I'm a volunteer for that committee for, I don't know, quite a while. For a long period, we were not aware that there were minutes missing from the past. Sometimes different people take those minutes. There have been times when I've been away because in the last 6 years, both of my parents have died, and I've been dealing with that issue. During that time, one of my computers crashed, and I couldn't get to all my records to do some of these minutes. I don't get them done within 5 days. I had no idea there was a 5-day rule. I have talked with the town staffer who tracked these, and she gave me a list of maybe 5 meetings at which we were missing minutes. Some of those meetings I was not present at, and other people volunteered to do that. This is not something where we're trying to hide anything. We're trying to cope with what we have and what we do, and most of us have been working full-time, and we fit this stuff in when we can. Sometimes we have to be absent. There are times of the year when we have not had any meetings because of whether it's Christmas or mud season, or there are times when there haven't been a lot of items that couldn't be held over to another meeting. I have looked in the town records for minutes, and there are other committees who do not file their minutes 5 days after their meetings, and some of them are lacking big sections of times when they have not filed their minutes. So you can blame me for not completing the minutes and filing them within 5 days of the town lands meeting.
Well, I have to respond to that. You're an attorney, are you not? Oh, are you an attorney?
Yes.
Okay. I thought one of the basics was ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
I'm not serving on the town.
You guys don't, no back and forth, please.
I'm not backing and forthing. I'm saying that if she was unaware, then someone dropped the ball. Maybe it was you who dropped the ball and not making sure your committee members that you appointed knew what their responsibilities were. But litany of excuses, you know, my dog ate my homework. That's great, but the point is, we've been talking about this specific issue of minutes not being posted for close to 2 years. This is the third or fourth time that we've brought this up. So you can't say, oh, this is new. I didn't realize this. We've been talking about this in relationship to this, but you know, all of you know that Patty has brought this up at least 3 times, and other people have chimed in. So you have a real administrative problem that you're not solving. And I think, you know, it's easy to say, oh, we're not hiding anything. Well, it's not a matter that you're hiding anything. It's a matter of what's happening. It's a matter of transparency. Yes, it is a matter of transparency. It's a matter that these are committees of the town. They're not independent private entities. And the townspeople have a right to see what was discussed on their behalf or not on their behalf. Thank you.
I think all of the issues that have been brought up tonight are valid. I think the biggest one, though, is your fiduciary responsibility for this town, and to ask voters to have you enter into a management agreement that obligates you to an unknown amount, because we've not heard it, you've not assessed it. It is way more than just a few parking spots. It's a bridge, it's access, it's dealing with maintenance. That is not fiduciarily, fiscally responsible. And that is the biggest issue that I have with this. Sure, I live in the neighborhood. Do I think a trail would be lovely? Lovely. We can go to Mitchell Field. You can go to 16 trails and have access to hiking. You have access to water within 2 miles at Lookout Point. So why take a pristine piece of property, take it over, and Matt, I want to address the fact that the state has budget. The money that is in that pool does not necessarily come here. There is huge competition for it. I'm in the fundraising business. I know what it means to get a grant, and I can tell you that I have talked to the people at the state. They have no intention, none, of funding this piece. They have many, many more priorities. So why spend money that you don't have? We just approved a boat launch for $1 million. You just approved a fire station for $6 million. What is the point?
All right, anybody else? Once, twice. All right, at this point here, we will end our public discussion and move on.